Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Zach Groves, criminology and political science double major.
It used to be French as well, actually, in there. I had a minor in French for the first 2 years and then realized this program is so disorganized and just quit it.
The French have to get themselves together.
A lot of people go into criminology thinking it's like Suits or something.
Exactly.
One of those big criminal shows, and it's just like, it's really not. Yeah, it is an interesting topic, and actually wrote a paper about recidivism rates, which is basically when like people commit crimes for a second time. We have a rehabilitative system, and that's something that like has been developed over the years, and that's been really interesting seeing that here. Whereas like places like Japan, it's like you commit a crime, you go to jail. Like youth commit the most crimes for a second time. Canada has a very basic thing. Like a crime has to have a criminal act and a criminal mind.
Anyone who doesn't know, Zach Groves, back-to-back years. 2 years ago was the MVP of Victoria College hockey. This year, MDP, most dedicated, most devoted player of the team.
I played hockey my whole life. I played hockey since I was 5 years old. I was in my second year, and I was running orientation for the entire college. It was really strange.
That's crazy.
I was managing a team of 100 student leaders.
Wow.
Most of them older than me. Some of them were like fine with it.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't like it that I was younger than them.
Yeah.
And that felt like high school to me. The day before the trip, this guy who's on the executive team calls me and is like, "Hey, Zach, I know the trip's canceled, but I'm still going to go to the cabin. Do you want to come? I have extra 2 seats in my car." Some random guy is taking me to this cabin in the woods. We drove to the cabin in this snowstorm, arrive at the cabin, walk up this dark hill, because that's like where we arrived at like 10 p.m. at night. Get in the cabin, freezing cold, and like had a really great night. It was an awesome experience. I was a nerdy kid in high school. I was a theater kid. Besides sports, I literally like was a theater kid. I loved like Broadway and musicals and plays and like that kind of stuff. But over the years, like doing drama and doing theater took me out of my shell.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Zach Groves, criminology and political science double major.
Yeah, it used to be French as well, actually, in there.
Really?
Actually, I had a minor in French for the first 2 years and then realized this program is so disorganized and just quit it.
Okay.
I was like, not going to happen.
The French have to get themselves together.
But yeah, I feel like I was just really, interested in just like not learning just grammar.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually learn how to speak French and do French because I had done French my whole life.
Yeah.
But all I did was learn grammar.
They don't teach how to speak.
They kind of just like teach you the minimal aspects of it, and they kind of also teach you Québécois here,
Right.
which I learned France French. I learned
Got it.
That like more formal, a bit less colloquial French, and so it was interesting learning all this slang that I had never heard before.
Yeah.
And then having these profs speak to me and not understanding them.
Right.
Because I knew French, and then they're saying these words, and I'm like, that is not a word in French.
That surprises me because you're from Surrey. You're from BC. Obviously, you're Canadian. Why did you learn French?
So my parents put me in French immersion in like kindergarten, and so it meant that I was studying French like since kindergarten to grade 12.
Mm-hmm.
I like passed my DELF exam, which is like the French international exam that tells you you're good at French or not. And like I learned French because all my teachers were from France.
Got it.
Like throughout high school, I had a teacher who was like very traditional French. She wore a face of white makeup every day. Like wore a black wig. Like very much like very like had to like look like perfect in France was that idea.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to see. Yeah.
That's cool. And but even then, I would think like the France teacher, she just take it over the curriculum, or is it just like you learn from who you're spending the time with, and she just speaks in a certain way?
I never thought that. I think part of our curriculum was a lot of like actually from France. It felt like like it seemed like the thing she was teaching us was that, but I have no idea if that's just what she picked.
Yeah, she just
went
was
off
the
actual
on her own.
Yeah, I think she just like went off her own doing her thing.
Funny.
But she was great. We had a great
funny.
time. But she spoke so fast.
Yeah.
Which made me learn French really well because of that.
Absolutely.
But it was good. No, it was good. But yeah, criminology and political science is what I do here.
What do you identify more with? I like asking this question.
For a while, it was criminology. Like I wanted to go into law for a long time.
Yeah.
And then recently, I've really shifted my mindset in the last like year or so into what I actually want to focus on.
Yeah.
And I think that focuses more with political science because I want to work with social work and not-for-profits. I really want to get into community programming, creating policy, creating like events with community programs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which I guess relates more to like the policy side and political science than criminology, which is the study of criminal behavior.
Got it.
Doesn't mean I can like the criminology stuff does mean I can like commit a crime and get away with it, but that's besides the point.
Absolutely. No, that's cool. I would think like aside of criminology, I never really know what you study in that. I feel like it's kind of, at least from what I hear, is like romanticized as like these these like criminal shows that they do where you get them in the interrogation room and you like start getting down on some guy. Is that like, are you learning the psychology behind it? Are you learning the legal side? Like, what is criminology even?
Yes, I feel like a lot of people go into criminology thinking it's like Suits or something.
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
one of those big criminal shows, and it's just like, it's really not. It's the study of criminal behavior. You look at a lot at like statistics. You look a lot at the behind the scenes of it and like what actually makes people commit crime in the first place.
Got it.
I think that's the biggest part for sure of the courses and stuff. But then also I get to also study like how the criminal mind works, how youth justice systems work, and like also like the development of justice systems over the years and stuff. So it's a bit of a mix of like all these different disciplines. It looks at a bit like at psychology, it looks a bit at political science and like politics around criminology, and then it also looks a lot at like the history of crime and like what that has been like over the years. So definitely a bit of a shift for sure.
There's an interesting kind of difference between, I guess, across cultures of how countries treat their criminal system. In Japan, the incarceration rate is like over 99%. And there's two sides of that. Obviously, the side where Japan's incredibly safe. Like you don't like here on a global stage, the crime there is not very high because they literally lock anyone up who might be suspected of a crime. The other side, though, is that I'm sure there's a lot of innocent people in jail. So like, what do you think about that balance? Because I feel like maybe in Western countries, we're getting a little more lenient in the terms of like, we have people who've committed multiple offenses and still we're not as strict as a country like Japan is, you know what I mean? So then it gets a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah, it is an interesting topic, and actually wrote a paper about recidivism rates, which is basically when like people commit crimes for a second time, and how that is viewed in Canada. And it's one thing that's interesting is we have a rehabilitative system, and that's something that like has been developed over the years. Like, yes, there are still a lot of people that go to prison, but there are a lot of programs in place nowadays that are about getting people out of prison or keeping people out of prison. And that's been really interesting seeing that here. Whereas like places like Japan, it's like you commit a crime, you go to jail, and that's just what it is. And it's like, whereas in Canada, it's like, how can we actually make sure they're being helped? But then you also see way less you see way less people committing crimes for a second time in Japan, versus in Canada, it happens very frequently, very high, especially among young people. Like, it's one of the biggest things is that like youth commit the most crimes for a second time, like have the highest rate of recidivism, because when you start at a young age, you have so much time after that to get back to that. And I feel like it's something that really honestly happens very frequently, unfortunately, because a lot of the time we have these rehabilitative systems in place that don't follow through, that don't actually get to the end, don't get to the point of where this, get to a point where this actually helps the person, where this actually gets through their head that, hey, I can't commit crime. I can't be doing that in the first place. But and honestly, like, I think the other thing is, like, what do we actually consider a crime is the biggest thing. I feel like Japan has a very different definition of crimes than we do sometimes. And the approach to that is very varied, I feel like. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, that's good. Let's just go deeper into that. Like, what is considered a crime? Like, I don't know if you've studied that necessarily in Canada. Like, what do we consider? Is it related to harm? Is it related to breaking a social norm? Like, there's a bunch of different things. Because I took a morality course this semester. So you kind of get into, like, how do people judge the difference between right and wrong?
How was that course?
It was good. It was good. A lot of reading.
Oh, I get that. Reading. But I'm sure I had an ethics course, same kind of thing. It's like just all the reading.
I'm sure you've done a lot more than that. But like, that's just the types of things we go into. So what does it go into from the criminal side of it, though?
I feel like it's what we define as a crime is something I haven't studied too much. But you also, like, Canada has a very basic thing. Like, a crime has to have an actus reus and a mens res. Basically means it has to have a criminal act and a criminal mind to become a crime. So it means it has to have a guilty act and a guilty mind. That's what those two Latin words I said mean. And basically it means that, like, they have to do the thing or be involved in doing the thing, the crime, and they have to know in their mind what they're doing. And so that's why there are some defenses like insanity and things like that like will often get people out of crimes. But like, it's hard to define like what makes a crime, because it's so varied in terms of like what we define a crime as. It's so varied because you can have small little things like burglary or a theft or something like that, where it's like, like you grabbed a candy bar out of the store, that is a crime. but will you be prosecuted to the full extent of the law? Probably not.
Yeah.
They're probably just going to say give it back. Like, whereas there's other things like if you scam somebody, you commit fraud, they're going to go after you. And that's and the things and the thing is that's not harming someone physically. So where is that line? Where is the definition?
Good point.
But I think the biggest thing with crime is that it's the idea that like it causes harm in any means to it has to have a victim. And that's one thing that often people try and argue in like the court and such is that like, oh, there's no victim to my crime.
Right.
Like I did this crazy stupid thing. I trespassed here and like set a fire, but no one got hurt. And it's an abandoned building, so no one was harmed. But it's still a crime because you are damaging something. Like even if it's just like the state's thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing a lot with like Donald Trump's case right now in the U.S. Because I don't know, Canadians, I feel like listen into the states a lot more than maybe even their own politics.
Yeah, I mean, like our budget just came out for the year, and I had no clue. I literally saw nothing about it. I like saw it come out, and I was like, oh, wait, what? This is happening?
This is a thing.
It's like the U.S. is you always know stuff's happening in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I think that they're saying is that Donald Trump's saying it's a victimless crime. Yeah. Like with his whatever, I don't even know too much about what happened, but whatever he did with his finances.
Yeah.
And that's like an interesting point about if there's what rules would be in place when there isn't a victim. You just said because you're causing damage to what is it property?
I guess like the thing is like property, who owns the property, that's damaging for them.
Got it.
And I guess if it's like more like the public or like as the government, it's like, oh, if you do something to the government stuff, it's actually the public stuff. So that's where the damage is going. It's actually you're damaging society.
Right. Okay.
Which is something that I've found really interesting. But you talk a lot about Donald Trump and how we see that, and it really reminds me a lot about like all these politicized cases that we see in the U.S. These like televised criminal cases that blow up on social media, and it's something that I feel like it affects the actual justice within those cases 100%. Yeah, like it really causes these cases to be less about the actual crime and more about how do we make this a show. And that's something that I feel like is damaging to the system nowadays, especially.
I completely agree. And when like this is something I just think about recently, all the systems in place, like these huge systems that we rely on in society, whether it's the justice system, educational system, financial system, everything that we basically live by, right? It conducts the way that we exist in society, at least in these cultures. They're all run by people. They're all made by people. They're all created by people. People are fallible. And especially now when you have social media, everyone knows that social media is causing huge political, I guess, basically making everyone extremists, right? Polarizing the political divide.
Yeah, there is no really middle anymore.
Exactly.
You have to pick a side, and that's something that I feel like can be so harmful in society. It's like, you are this or this and nothing else.
Exactly. Yeah. And to think that the judge of a certain case wouldn't also be affected by the same biases, I think is kind of naive. So you have to worry about, is he polarized to this end? Like how does his judgment, where originally everyone was pretty, well spread out, especially someone in a position like that. Yeah. You take an oath, you have to do all these things. And it's not like the judge is even thinking he's being controlled by the bias because you don't notice sometimes.
Yeah, one thing I think about that is like the U.S. is one of the most unique systems is that their judges are voted in by the public. And their judges are associated with political parties.
Really?
So you will have a Democratic judge running for like Supreme Court.
I did not
know that. And you'll have, that's why like on the Supreme Court, they always talk about, oh, there are 5 Republicans, 4 Democrats.
Yeah.
They are associated with these political parties, which is absolutely insane. So like all these, like and the same thing with state courts. Like any of the big state courts, the state Supreme Courts, same thing. The judges that are running for these positions have a political party or are affiliated with a political party. And it's one of the most insane situations because it just causes people to vote by their party, not by who they agree with or anything like that.
Why is that? Why do they do it like that? Do you know?
I don't know. It shifted recently. It wasn't like that before. It used to be just like, oh, you'd have this judge who's really well known and really respected. And then it's I don't know when it started to shift. I haven't studied enough of that. But like it's really interesting to see how they like literally have politicized the justice system. Like it's not just a court system. It's not just a justice system. It's now politics.
Yeah. It's insane. It's crazy. The same thing, because that's when you're talking about bias with judges. That's insane. Yeah. But also, I feel like something that's shifted recently is the division and the, I guess, politicized nature of media, and how before journalists were meant to be the most, I guess, unbiased, neutral, equal coverage of both sides, but now that's clearly not the case.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's better for us now, considering there are journalists who claim to be neutral with clear biases, or do you think we should shift towards a place where the journalists at least admit their bias? Because then we can take them from what they are. We know what angle they're coming from instead of them trying to pretend they're not.
It's something that some governments are trying to regulate right now. Like, I don't know if you know, but like Canada banned Instagram from sharing news, social media from sharing news.
Yeah.
And that was to try and remove some of that bias and remove some of that. But another thing is like some governments are trying to force news outlets to admit their political side, their side of their politics. And it's really obvious to see in the US. Like you'll know like, oh, Fox News is on the left, whereas like some other news outlets are on the right and things like that. Fox is also on the right.
Yeah.
Sorry, the opposite. And so it's really interesting seeing that because like, you know, these news outlets are for that. And then you can just go to them whenever you believe in that.
Right.
And so I think one of the biggest issues with this politicizing of news outlets is confirmation bias. And that idea that like you can just look for what you want and look for the news that you want to see, look for the news that you want to hear. And when you see it, good. It's the truth. It's the real thing. Yeah. And it's just not sometimes. It's like oftentimes you find yourself looking at something and thinking, oh, this is real. This is everything, when there's so much more to this story or so much more to everything happening. So as you said, people that say they're neutral, I don't know how much I trust that. Like, I don't know how much I trust that because where does that actually lie? Where do they actually like focus on things? Where do they really find themselves? And I think oftentimes you find someone neutral and they are more left because that is where society has been shifting recently, especially. And then anyone on the right does not agree and just don't trust them and says they're not. And so it's this whole weird balance of like trying to find like how can you actually be neutral and just like report the news versus putting your opinion in it.
Exactly. That's I think the biggest problem is that nobody knows what the facts are anymore. And now I'm not even starting to abandon the idea of facts because before you had this trust, like everyone agreed. If there was a debate in society, this is what I think is happening. If there was a debate between two guys in a small town in the 1930s, they were basing their opinions on the same information. Nowadays, everyone has different sources of information. So the debate is everyone's confused. Nobody knows what they're talking about because when I cite this source or this paper or this outlet, this guy says, okay, well, that's a lie. That's not true because he's citing this one. Yeah. Before, we all looked at the same things and we formulate our opinions based on that. Now it's so widespread and everyone doesn't know what the truth is anymore, which is obviously it's the information era. That's what the internet has done, but it's crazy.
No, it definitely. And I think it's something that really like, it's so damaging and so hard, especially now with like even like so much of the news you see is just AI generated nowadays. Like you don't even know like what's being written by a person anymore because like you could have an AI generate all these stories in 5 minutes versus you take the days and hours to actually find the facts and write it. So why not just have the AI write it for you? Because there's already so much out there, even if it's not real or not true. Yeah.
It's crazy. Something I had a point that I wanted to build off that. Maybe we'll circle back onto it.
That's okay.
When it comes to reporting and covering, I know that like this isn't your obviously
not really my area of expertise.
I know it's not your expertise. We're kind of going off script.
That's okay.
But this is something that just pops into my head. I had a different subject. We'll go back to it. Reporting on wars, on these big conflicts. Not going to go too deep into it, but I wanted to ask a simple question. Obviously, you have, I guess the big one right now would be Israel and Palestine. Yeah. And the stuff that's going on there. I'm not going to ask your opinion on it, but I did want to know how should a country condone or support its allies in all situations. So let's not even take that as a use case. Let's just think of an imaginary country who is friends with country B. Okay, country A is friends with country B, and country B is fighting an enemy who we don't know who's right and who's wrong, but should we like nevertheless support the ally? Because when I think of a family, okay? Yeah. I don't know if you want to consider countries like families, but let's just do this. Sure. My brother does something that maybe I don't approve of. Okay. Maybe he's in the wrong in a situation. Maybe he gets into a fight at a bar. Okay. And he's in the wrong. I think I am meant to back him by his side and fight the guy no matter what. I don't even know what's happening. Okay. I just know that that's my brother that is some guy that's picking on him, I'm joining the fight.
Okay.
So I agree with that part when it's family. I don't think countries have those relationships at all.
Yeah,
I think a country is its own family.
Yeah.
And connections to other countries should not be considered so close-knit.
No, I think it's like you have to consider it as friendships, or in that sense,
Yeah.
and more. And like, yeah, like you definitely go do some things for your friends. But like, if your friend went and murdered somebody, would you then stand by them no matter what?
Right.
That is the biggest question. Like, if your friend did something like truly awful or horrendous in your eyes, do you still stand by them, even though you don't believe or don't think that that's something that really should be stood by? And I feel like that's something that is the biggest dilemma for countries, is like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah.
Where do you actually jump in and be a part of that? Whereas where do you not show that same support?
I agree. And yeah, obviously you have that situation. You have Ukraine, Russia. I just think that a family is one country. It's within its country. I think its loyalty to allies is not as necessarily tight knit as its loyalty to its own people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the focus needs to be on the people that like it represents. Like, that is the whole idea of a government, is to represent the people within the country.
Right.
And so if their focus is always on externals, that can be very difficult. Of course, you want to maintain those relationships. You want to maintain those allies, because that is what gives you trade. It's what gives you a booming economy. It also is what gives you safety and protection in case of like anything happening. And so like, it is a very fine line between when do you jump in to make sure you don't lose that partnership versus when you stay out of an internal conflict for somebody else, an internal family dispute, or a dispute between two other families, versus your family being a part of it. Because like, that would be kind of strange. I feel like, say your neighbors got into a fight with another neighbor, and you decide, hey, they're my friend, let me go over there and like make sure that like I'm gonna stand beside them. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I feel like who, like, I don't know, I feel like you really, like, if you look at it more as like, we're our own sovereign spaces, our own sovereign states, it can really be like, oh, hey, let's stand back, let them do their thing. And like, but then when do you jump in? I don't know.
It's very nuanced. Obviously a huge oversimplification. But anyways, we'll move on from those subjects. I wanted to talk to you more about sports.
Yeah, let's do it.
Anyone who doesn't know, Zach Groves, back-to-back years. 2 years ago was the MVP of Victoria College hockey. This year, MDP, most dedicated, most devoted player of the team. Big respect. Obviously, this is how we know each other. We play on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, you're captain out here, so.
An absolute stud of a goalie. So, how's the injury, by the way?
It's getting better. I'm doing physio twice a week right now, trying to get back as fast as I can. The guy says I should be good to go fully by June, which is good.
Nice.
Definitely healing. Like, no pain anymore when I'm walking around, but still, like, definitely still tender. And, like, it's because, like, basically my MCL was a grade 2 tear.
Okay.
And so it meant that like grade 1 is like a pinhole, or like it's anything like a hole. Grade 2 is like half your MCL is kind of torn apart.
Right.
And grade 3 is like it's completely pulled apart.
Yeah.
And so like it's definitely like I had a bit of a tear. It's definitely like way less strong as it was before because of that, which means I have to strengthen the other muscles around it to support it, because the MCL doesn't actually heal. You just have to build up everything else around it to support it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, it'll heal enough that it's like stable, but it won't like get back to where it was.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so it is something where you have to like really like build up everything else around it to make stability.
Yeah.
But you can do it. I don't need surgery, which is good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Have you had to deal with any surgery before that? Like, is this the first type of injury?
This isn't the first injury. So like, I played hockey my whole life. I played hockey since I was 5 years old. And like, I used to play on the top team in my city. I took my team to provincials. Like, nice. I missed hockey. I miss hockey so much in terms of like that level of hockey. Because now I just play intramurals, which is great, very fun. But it's once a week versus when I was playing back in BC, I was playing 6 days a week.
There you go.
Like, it was a great time, and I love it so much. Like 2 games a week, 2 practices, an off-ice training, and then a goalie practice every single week.
That's sweet.
It was a great time.
That's the life.
Yeah, so much fun. Like every day after school, my dad's like rushing back from work just to get me to hockey until I got to the age where I was driving myself, and then he was like, "Okay, just take the car." I don't have time. But overall, like the injuries were a big part of it for sure. I had 3 concussions back in high school, which really did affect me, and like I definitely can still feel the residual effects of that, and we can get into that after if you want to. But my biggest injury is actually my shoulder, because I injured it really badly. I hyperextended it, dislocated it, and tore 3 muscles all in the same moment. Jeez. And then it healed wrong, and so now I have a cyst in my shoulder, actually, inside the middle of my rotator cuff, basically, which will likely need surgery. But the surgeon is worried about doing surgery now because I could lose more mobility than I have I have daily pain in my shoulder, like it's just there, pain.
Yeah.
But the surgeon, the surgeon who I talked to, is worried about doing the surgery at my age because he thinks that I could lose the mobility I have.
Got it.
Because I already right now don't have full range of motion. Like anything above my head hurts.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
But it's something I've dealt with for the last few years now. After it healed, it like went away for a bit, and then the pain came, and that was when I started looking into it and seeing it. I had like MRIs done. I've had a steroid shot, like a bunch of stuff trying to like fix my shoulder.
Yeah.
Nothing's really working so far, so that's why surgery is the option, but I don't want to do it yet.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
yeah, definitely not the first injury I've had. I've had a few.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And you're a big sports guy.
I love sports.
You're a big athletic.
Yeah.
Athletic. What is it? Participant? Because you're not just hockey. You're in. It's. Don't tell me. Ultimate.
Yeah, I'm captain
What
of the
else?
ultimate team
Is
right
that
now.
just those two?
And badminton right now.
And
but
badminton.
like growing up, I played tons of sports. Growing up, I was in high school. I was a 5-sport athlete in high school. Like I like played. And that was like at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I was doing hockey, ultimate, baseball, volleyball, and what am I forgetting? Badminton. Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. So a lot of different options, a lot of different sports. It was a really good time for sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna ask you, but I'm gonna first guess the reason that you participate so much in these things.
Yeah.
In not only intramurals, obviously the sports you played back in BC, but then also there's more extracurricular stuff that we're gonna get into. You're just kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
So health and fitness.
Definitely a big important part. Like
Yeah.
I love feeling like healthy and feeling good about myself, and that
Yeah.
really sparks from being active. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is important because I actually heard a thing. It was Chris Williams. Do you know Chris Williamson? He's a podcaster guy.
I probably do, but like not off the top of my head. Like I'm bad with names. That's one thing I've always like struggled with. Faces, I'm like, yes, I know you.
Fair enough.
Names, I'm like, it could be anybody.
He's a British podcaster. He was talking to Piers Morgan on his show.
Yeah.
And Piers asked him, what do you think is more important for a young man to have? Is it mental resilience or physical resilience? And Piers was saying, yeah, it's about mental resilience. We don't have enough mental strength, or that's what he said, strength. Mental strength or physical strength. Mm-hmm. And Piers was talking about mental strength, and Chris Williamson was talking about physical strength because it's the base of where mental strength is built from. So like a strong body is a strong mind is kind of what he was saying.
Yeah.
If you don't feel healthy, if you're either overweight or underweight, whichever one it is, if you are not powerful, if you feel kind of, too, I guess, weak or reserved or just scared, you're not going to be able to fortify and build that mental strength either. Do you think that's true? Or
Yeah, I feel like they go hand in hand. Like you have to to develop mental strength, there has to be that physical aspect of it. I feel like because like of course, yeah, I could go to all the therapy and all the like classes and like workshops and anything to like really develop a mental strength in a sense, and also like all that self-reflection. But like, what is the baseline of that? What is that? Where is that foundation? And I think often that does stem from physical strength, and the physical strength itself like helps with mental strength. Like I feel like one of the biggest ways for me to like release energy or release any emotion is through being active and through sports. And I think that's very common for people in sports generally. Absolutely. Is that idea that, hey, like I just want to get all this energy out right now, and let me do that through like a sport and have a good time with that.
Yeah. So that leads into my second prediction or aspect of why you play so many sports: de-stress.
Yeah.
Kind of helps you let go. When you're on the ice, it's an incredible feeling.
Oh my God.
I can't tell you how many times I've come back from a test, like an exam, whether it was good or bad.
Yeah.
I'm able to hop on the ice and I just forget all about it.
Oh, that's why last year exam season, I literally went this past semester. I just went skating after every exam. I was like, I'm just gonna go skating because I wanted to get on the ice no matter what. Even though I couldn't play hockey, I was like, I just got to get on the ice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely de-stress. You say like the thing about how the ice makes you feel so good. Why do you think I go? Why do you think I want to be the goalie? Why do you think I want to be on the ice the whole time?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Goalies are that's true.
I want all that pressure, and I just want to like forget about anything else except for this game, being in the space.
Except for that first year, I think, where we had 3 goalies. That was pretty tough.
Playing 10 minutes a game is just the weirdest experience because it's like, especially the goalie in the middle of that 3 goalie thing. Because like, of course, like you have the intramurals, it's cut into like 2 15-minute periods, and like that in itself kind of sucks because it's not very long. With 3 goalies, that's 10 minutes each, but there's a goalie in the middle who plays a 5-minute period, takes a break, and then plays another 5-minute period.
Crazy.
Which doesn't really make sense as a goalie to show up for an hour game and just like stand there.
Yeah, yeah.
I think one time I did that, and I think I faced one shot the entire time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just weird.
It's tough. It's
so like
tough.
that season where I got to be the only goalie, that was great. I loved that. That was very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And Landon got a bit of that too now because you're on the bench.
I'm injured. I'm coaching.
Coaching.
Which is fun.
Coach Groves. That was good.
Coach Groves. Every time I walked in the room now, Coach.
Yeah, exactly. At the very, I think it was the first game of this semester.
Yeah.
I had to make lines because we had way too many players. We had like 20 skaters.
That was insane.
It was crazy.
Everybody showed up.
Yeah.
It's like 22. I feel like it was more than that. You had like 4 lines of forwards and 4 lines of D or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tarek was saying that we should have a second team next year. I understand where he's coming from, but I don't really like that. I prefer Victoria.
Just one team.
I like that we're all Vic. I wouldn't want to play against another Vic team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's the idea like he wants more ice time.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough.
I could see where that could be good because then also like the goalies could split up, things like that. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't mind it. I'm happy with the team. It's great.
That's fair. But yeah, so I was making lines and I wrote the lineup in last names and I gave it for him to read. But he doesn't know people by last names and it was a complete mess.
Because we all go by first names. So
we
it was
all
like,
go by I don't know why I did that.
I knew my last name, yours, and like Callan's, and I was like, hold on a second, Tarks. But I was like, who are these random people?
Yeah.
So I started saying last names, and everyone else looked around the room. Like, Who was he saying?
That was a huge mistake because it's not like the whole team knows last names either.
Nope.
Everyone refers to each other by first name. That was my bad. Yeah. I just do it because that's like normally how you see. You know how NHL
I don't think the back of the jerseys we have our last names.
Right.
Some of us.
Yeah.
Other people don't, and so it was this weird balance of like I'm like, this is some random person I've never met.
My mistake.
No clue. Then I said a last name for a guy that I knew, and I just felt really bad because I didn't know.
Yeah. 100%.
It's all good though. It was a funny time.
Third aspect, the last one.
Yeah.
Social connection and just social life and meeting new people and all this kind of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That is like so key. I feel like that's maybe one of the top ones because I feel like it's always been like about like developing community. That's one of the biggest parts of my life that I like, and I think finding myself in those spaces where, hey, this is a team sport, we're going to get this through together, has always been so appealing to me and so rewarding in a sense to just like be in that space with these people working on this one combined goal.
Yeah.
And yeah, like building those connections for future. Like some of my best friends are ones I played hockey with when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like genuinely my best friend back home in VC, like we played hockey when we were 5 together. We took like a 7-year break in the middle, met again in high school and became like super close.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Because like we just like didn't play for a long time together in elementary school.
Yeah.
But like we played together my first year in hockey ever.
Yeah.
And now like we're close, super close, chat all the time. He's amazing. Yeah.
It's something about having the exact same mission as like the rest of your team. You know, you're all putting energy and effort into this common goal. And there's different versions of that in life too. Like it's not just sports, obviously. Like you can have that in business, you can have that if you want to study with a friend, whatever it is. There's plenty of things. But I think that's something that people need a lot of in life, just to feel it's a sense of community. I think it's the strongest sense of community, honestly. It's a group of people with a common goal. I don't know how else you can have a sense of community without that.
I mean, I don't think there is other ways. I feel like you can see it with it's like clubs and like any other organizations that like work together on things, but nothing similar to what you get with sports. Like you can have the idea of like, oh, we're getting together this common goal, but sports is like it builds a brotherhood, it builds a family, it builds a community.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's fair too, because I guess there's a risk component, as we saw. If you got injured, we have another guy, Teague, that got injured at the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
I think he's okay now, but anyways, there's
I never heard updates about him.
Sorry?
I never heard anything about what happened to him.
No, I think he messaged me. I think he said like it wasn't too long. It was like maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and he was back. He was
the
good.
sprain. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it looked a lot worse than that. But so there's a risk aspect to it, but then there's also the fact that you have another group of people trying to destroy that mission you're on. You know what I mean? They have a goal that's completely opposite to yours.
Yeah, it conflicts completely with yours.
Yeah.
And so like, it's also like, hey, I don't want to just do this thing. I also want to kill those guys.
Right. Yeah.
I want to destroy them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, no, sports is awesome. Is there anything else other than those 3 that you would say that you participate in sports for?
I feel like it really stems down to those 3 things you talked about. Like, like the health, de-stressing, and like building community are like those main. I think those are the 3 like big. If you like really look at it, the big things. I think that's because like you can look at anything else like related to that. Like all encompasses those, like self-improvement, building those connections, like even developing like like hard work and like the mental strength to like do work and do different things. I think it all stems from sports as well. So I think it's all within those three for sure.
There you go. So then, okay, let's move on from that. Let's contrast the sports, friendships, and community and all that with your other club participation. So there's two of them I really want to talk about. Yeah. There's the outdoor, what was it?
University of Toronto Outing Club.
Outing Club.
But we mostly go by Outdoors Club just because it's easier to know.
Got it.
But like the club's been there for like, what, 50 years now?
Oh, wow.
And so like it was made as the University of Toronto Outing Club back when it started.
So there's that. There's the Outing Club. But then there's also, I feel like this isn't maybe as big for you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But you led orientation last year.
Huge for me.
That was huge.
That's huge for me. It was such a
so tell me about both of those experiences.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with orientation because orientation was like the one that happened first. Yeah. So as you know, like I don't know if you know this, but my first year I didn't have an orientation. It was all online. I moved into residence, but literally joined these like video calls for orientation, and that just was like, it felt weird. I didn't go to many of them because it just didn't feel like a community. Yeah. And like I went and met people myself in person. Nice. When I could, outside, because that was all we could. That was all we could do. We sat in a circle in the quad on my first couple days at university, just trying to meet people randomly. And that was okay. So then, and like halfway through my first year, I want to find a way to get in community. I had just joined Vic Records, the music club, and that was a really great opportunity. I loved that. And then I applied for exec for orientation. And so my second year, I was an executive. We ran like a hybrid orientation. It was like half in person, half online. And for some reason, everybody else on the team had 3 or 4 tasks. I had 9. Okay. It was very strange, but because like one of our co-chairs, like the staff member who was working on orientation, left partway through the year. Yeah. And so it meant that a lot of their duties kind of fell on the team. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, no one else on the team stepped up, which was very strange. And so it ended up being like myself doing a lot of extra things. Like I was supposed to just do branding, logos, and merch. Okay. I did branding, logos, and merch. I built the website. I ran 3 of the events that we had to do in person. Like the 2 events we had to do in person. And like spearheaded some like other work. I can't even remember the list of things nowadays. Team carry. But it was so weird because I was just an exec. Like I was just like one of the team. I was usually a team at like 10 exec. But I loved it. Like I loved that extra work. It was so much fun. One night I stayed up till 4 a.m. editing a video just because like we had to get it out for the next day. Yeah. And then I woke up at 8 a.m. for orientation again. So it was like it was like I was doing way too much. Yeah. But I loved it. So then December comes around and I applied for co-chair for orientation for 2022. Like that, I was going for that year and got it. And I was at the time the youngest co-chair we'd had at Vic for like a decade. Nice. And that was like, for one, crazy to me. And I don't know when the last one my age was before that, because like no one really knew, because like I was in my second year. Yeah. And I was running orientation for the entire college. It was really strange. That's crazy. I was managing a team of 100 student leaders. Wow. Most of them older than me. Yeah. And it was just really strange doing that. Yeah. But I loved it. Like it was really cool. It was a full-time job. Yeah. Like I started in January, hired my executive team in February, hired the leader team, which is like all the people that run the events on the day of orientation. And then I had the summer working every day, like basically a 9-to-5 job in the office. At like Victoria College, like in the Goldering Center. I had an office. That's awesome. And like meeting with these big departments at U of T and like at Victoria College, like collaborating with different clients and like vendors and sponsors and like anything we had to like work with. Yeah. And it was a really cool experience. And then also like the team of execs that I had hired, I had to manage all of them. Yeah. It was a cool experience, like managing a budget of like over 6 figures, like crazy times.
How was that? I want to talk to you more because I can kind of relate to the struggle with leading students that were older than you.
Yeah, that was strange.
It was strange, yeah.
Some of them were like fine with it. Yeah. Some of them didn't like it that I was younger than them. Yeah. And that felt like high school to me. It felt like the idea of like, oh, like someone's young, they shouldn't be doing more than me. Right. Because it was like, it's like, yeah, like we're all in this together. We're all working this together. But some people like on the team were just like, kind of resented me because I was older than them.
Younger than them, yeah.
So because I was younger, because they were older than me. I hear you. Like that idea. It was like this weird balance of like, how do I like?
Did you feel out of place?
Not really, because I really like I'm very mature for my age. I feel like I feel like I've done a lot in my life already, so it was like I was kind of like a natural step. Yeah. Like everyone on the exec team the year before was like, hey Zach, you need to go for the co-chair. You need to go for the position. Yeah. And So I did, and I loved it, and it was a great time. But definitely a weird balance managing people older than me, because if I had to like tell them what to do because I was actually in their boss at the time, where is that line? Like, it's students leading students. So where is that balance? Like, how much respect can even be there in the first place?
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you. Because for me, I applied to be the captain of the Vic team in my first year.
Yeah.
And I got in, and I was like brand new to U of T, and I'm like, okay, these guys all look bigger than me and all look older than me. And I felt really out of place myself, just sitting there like, I shouldn't be here. I should not be the captain.
But you did a great job with it. Like, you got us jerseys.
Well,
and that was awesome. And we were all like, okay, let's go. And we had a good time.
Yeah. So that was awesome. I thought that was pretty cool.
Think about it. If you were bad, why have you come back the last few years?
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that hopefully the people at VCAA thought I did a good job.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the thing, is that progressively it's gotten easier as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
With the experience. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah.
But also just like, it was hard just as a first year, as a 17-year-old, to be like, what's up, fourth year? I know you've been on this team 3 years longer than me, but I'm
your captain now. I'm in charge
really
of you.
Weird.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that 100%, because like I was leading an orientation that I never saw.
Right.
Like, I was leading an orientation. Yeah,
point.
Because like when I started my first year, I didn't have orientation.
And
so when I was in this, this was also the first year of in-person orientation again that I was the co-chair for. So like when I was in charge of it, it was the first year back after COVID. And so it's something that I had literally never seen. And so like, how do I run an orientation that I have no clue what it is? And like, how much changes in that versus how much do you really like want to like keep it the same as it was before COVID? And that was a actually weird balance, was like people that had seen the previous orientations were like, let's keep it the same way. Yeah. Whereas myself and anyone who hadn't seen it was like, hey, we should make some changes or do this differently.
Yeah.
And so that was a whole like other conversation. But there were some people on the team who had an in-person orientation, so they knew more than me in that sense, because they'd seen it in person. And so when I was like, hey, let's do this, how much were they going to listen to my ideas or my conversations or my thoughts, because they had seen it in person, whereas I had never.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
It is a weird balance when you're younger than people, and I've always found myself in those same positions.
Yeah.
Because I've just always pushed myself to like get into higher roles as much as I can, because I like that. I like those leadership positions. I've always enjoyed having the chance to work with in like a higher aspect of things, and like with more teams and like more on like the actual logistics of planning and such.
Yeah. I think the key thing is just earning their respect.
Yeah.
I think that's at least was my approach, is coming from it, where even though I'm the captain of this team, I'm not gonna come from a position of authority. I'm gonna show you that I wanted to do this for a reason. And
it's a focus on looking at like, hey, like, I want to work with you.
Correct.
I want to work with you. Like, yeah, I'm in this position, but I want to work with you. I want to really like hear you out. I want to work with you, develop these thoughts, develop these ideas. But it can still be hard for sure to find that balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A saying, or I guess maybe not a saying, but kind of a motto I've been living by for the Vic team mainly, but it's kind of expanded into broader areas of my life, is don't be your teammate's excuse. So I believe in hard work.
Yeah.
I believe in hard work a ton, and I have high expectations for the performance of my team, also for myself though. And you have to have it for yourself if you're going to have it for your team, obviously.
Definitely.
And the last thing I want is for me to be lazy on the ice and for that to allow someone else to say, okay, I don't really need to try that hard because Carter, the guy who's supposed to be the captain, isn't doing shit.
I agree. It's leading by example. It's this idea. Like, I think like I want to work harder than everybody else on the team to earn that respect. I feel like that's my kind of my approach, is like, I'm going to work harder than anybody else to show like, hey, like, this is why I'm in this position. This is why I'm in this role. It's because I put the effort, put the care in, and let's work together on this. Let's get it done, kind of thing. Like, I want to see you perform, so I'm going to perform as well. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
100%. I think that is.
And I see that with you, especially with the team. Yeah. Like, you put the work in, you put yourself in those pressure positions and like pressure spaces, and like perform. And that's the same. And so that's what people follow by that. People respect you by that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing for leadership, at least what I've taken from it, is that there has to be respect. No one's going to follow someone that they don't respect and who's clearly a hypocrite. They have to be working harder than everyone else. Yeah. That has to be true. If it's not true, then you get it to a position where you bark from authority without doing anything yourself, and then you lose all your, I guess, effect.
Yeah, and it's something that often is hard because like sometimes when you're in a position of authority, people don't see the work you're doing, don't see that work you have to do behind the scenes or away from their eyes because of like just like there's being so much other stuff you have to do besides when you're in that moment.
Right.
And so it's often like how much can you like say like, hey, this is what I'm doing, because you want to earn that respect. But sometimes you can't even share like what the work you've been doing or what you've been doing. Right. Like sometimes like some of the work I was doing in that position was like confidential, stuff the exec couldn't know about yet.
Yeah.
And so like someone would ask me like, hey Zach, what do you do on a day to day? And I'm like, how do I share that? Like what do I say to ensure that they understand like, hey, Zach's actually working hard versus I'm not crossing a line that I can't cross at this point.
Right.
Yeah. There's also like, it's students. So it's like, there's that weird boundary there.
True. That's an interesting like parameter I didn't really consider.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing confidential you have to have on the Vic team, but I guess in different situations you might not be able to.
But you also still do work behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is like luckily because of that work we all see like what that is.
Right.
And like some of us are like in other teams and stuff and we maybe do that work, and so like there is that like, oh yeah, this is actually a bit of there is more to it than just show up on the day and be in charge kind of thing. It's like there's a lot more to it. Yeah.
That's completely fair. The outing club.
Yeah. So the outing club.
How did you get into that?
So I found the club like, I don't know, September 2022, like in October that year. And then like didn't really join in. I was kind of too busy with other stuff going on. January comes around and I had a big shift in my life and just generally, and I found like I really just like looked at the club and I went, you know what, let me sign up. So I ran into them at a club fair. They were like, please come out, please join. And so I like signed up, got on the mailing list and like found myself like receiving the emails. So first email comes out. There's a downhill ski trip to the cabin in February reading week. And I was like, perfect, I'm going to go to that. Yeah. I sign up. 2 days before the trip, we get an email from the trip leader and they go, trip's canceled. There's a snowstorm coming. We don't want to go. Damn. I was so sad. Like that was my whole reading week plan. Like that was my and so the day before the trip, this guy who's on the executive team calls me and is like, hey, Zach, I know the trip's canceled, but I'm still going to go to the cabin. Nice. Do you want to come? I have extra 2 seats in my car. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. No clue who this person is. I didn't know anybody else going on this trip. I just was like, so some random guys taking me to this cabin in the woods.
I feel like I remember seeing a picture of that on your story years ago.
Yeah.
How do I remember that? I don't know how I remember that.
Probably. That was like February last year. Would have been. And it was like, just like, it was just in the woods. And there's like 5 of us. Like, and it was a great time, but definitely like on the way there, I'm like, am I being kidnapped? I don't know. I've never met this person before.
It was just the 2 of you?
Myself, this exec, his girlfriend, and then one of their friends. Okay. And then my friend joined us later, who was actually up at Blue Mountain, who was like already there. So anyways, we drove up to the cabin in this snowstorm, arrive at the cabin, walk up this dark hill, because that's like where we arrived at like 10 p.m. at night. Get in the cabin, freezing cold. Yeah. It's so cold.
Did you bring blankets?
I had a sleeping bag and I had my giant coat.
Okay.
We got our wood stove going, which is how we heat the cabin, and doesn't heat up because it's like only 5 of us in there. Typically, there's like 20 people in the cabin, which I'll get to later. And so it's freezing the whole night. I sleep in my winter coat in the sleeping bag. Yeah. Because I was so cold. Anyways, we wake up the next morning super early, like 6 a.m., go to Blue Mountain and go ski. Yeah. Best day I'd had in a long time. Nice. I skied for 8 hours. Damn. I was so happy. 4 hours in, the guy who was on the trip with me went back to the cabin and took a nap because he was so tired. And I just kept skiing the whole time. And then my friend who's from Vic, Taylor, you might know Taylor Teal. No, it's okay. He's a year older than me. Okay. But like he was like a leader in orientation, big baseball guy, like. Yeah, great time. Anyway, so he came out and snowboarded with me for like an hour. And then we went back to the cabin, great time. And like had a really great night. It was an awesome experience. I fell in love with the club. So then next email comes out for a trip. I sign up, go on it, and they go, hey, Zach, we're looking for a vice president. Do you want to be part of the club? And I was like, you know what? Let me do that. So I ran in the election, got elected as vice president, and just went from there. Kept building from that. I took on a bunch of extra stuff. I ran 10 cabin trips this last year. Damn. To our cabin in the middle of the woods that we built back in like 1960s. Damn. Like the club is so cool. Like this club that like has been here for 50 years. It's its own not-for-profit. Like it's not just a club. It's actually like a not-for-profit organization. Yeah. So now I now am the president and a director of a not-for-profit because of that. Because
living your dream.
Yeah, and then so like I did this for like the last year as vice president, took on as many things as I could, ran like 8 skating nights. Took people to different skating arenas all over Toronto.
Yeah.
Took over like 250 people to a cabin in the woods that we had.
250 people?
Over 250 people over 10 trips. Yeah.
Jeez.
Like 25 people a trip, basically. Yeah. Went on a few other things, went on a camping trip, ran a kayaking trip.
Damn.
And it's just been like such an incredible experience. Like it's been so fun to just like get outdoors, meet new people. It's also like this club is all about community. It's all about building connections, community, which is what I love.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like I get to make that happen for people. And
That's
it's been so
cool.
much fun. So then I ran for president a couple weeks ago. Got it. Now the president of the club, and I'm excited for the year to come. Planning some big trips already, including like literally a trip in like 2 weeks.
Nice.
May 3rd, taking people up to the cabin for like end of year, like post exams, like come out, just relax, enjoy the cabin, go on a hike. We'll go on hikes. We'll go caving, like climbing through caves, basically. Maybe go swimming if it's warm enough. We'll see.
That's sweet.
But great times. I love the club so much. Like I'm so excited for the year to come. Got so many plans. Trying to figure out if I can plan a big like trip to like the Rockies or something maybe.
Yeah.
Because like the club, like it's all about low cost. It's all about like getting people outdoors as cheap as possible.
Yep.
And like keeping it affordable while also making it accessible. So it's a great time. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
My mom's dream is to go hiking in like Utah and like Arizona, and like those mountains where it's like kind of the desert, but it's like it's rocky and that kind of thing. And so her listening to this, I'm sure she's very jealous right now.
I mean, I grew up in Vancouver, so I grew up around mountains.
Yeah.
So like this outdoors club was like me getting back to the outdoors, because like Toronto, you don't have much. There's not a lot. Whereas like
not compared to Vancouver.
Yeah, and like so this club, like I get to like go a few hours away to like cabins and like camping trips. Go to Algonquin Park and like experience like canoeing through like the lakes and rivers there. Yeah. Like it's a great time. It's so much fun. I love it.
That's awesome. That's
definitely
so cool.
miss the BC mountains though. That's a big thing. Because like the highest mountain here is a hill.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's called Blue Mountain, but I call it Blue Hill.
Yeah, Blue Hill. That's fair enough. So you're now president of the Outing Club. Something I'm now circling back. I remember what I want to say.
Yeah.
To lead, because now you'd be considered obviously the leader of this club.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think you need to have as a trait for people to kind of, I guess you say look up, but like respect you as a leader, is to be likable and to be liked and to be sociable. And you are obviously you're a sociable guy and you're very nice, and people obviously I feel gravitate towards you because you're very communicative, and I think sociable is the best way to put it.
Thank you.
So explain, like, how has that helped you? Obviously you love connecting with people, so I consider you naturally sociable.
To an extent. I feel like I definitely developed it. I was a nerdy kid in high school. Okay. I was introverted, but also liked being out there. Like I was a theater kid. Besides sports, I literally like was a theater kid. I loved like Broadway and musicals and plays and like that kind of stuff. Yeah. And definitely made me a bit of a geek and a nerd in high school for sure. But over the years, like doing drama and doing theater took me out of my shell, because like I was like way more open to just like jumping out there and seeing what happened. And then like finding things like this like Seek Discomfort group that I like love and like follow a lot of, this idea of stepping out of your comfort zone, living life, really like kind of like pushed me to like get myself into this sociable aspect of things, get myself into this idea of like, hey, you can just do this. Like you can just get out there and like talk to people and have a good time. Yeah. I realized like, I think the biggest shift in my mind was when I stopped worrying what other people thought about me. Yeah. And just found myself like living my life as myself and doing what I want to do. And people that like me and like that will gravitate towards it. People that don't, that sucks. I guess they will go do their own thing. Yeah. Fair enough. Like it's like I'm also like I'm not gonna miss out on somebody who's gonna be hateful or harmful because I'm being myself. Right. I'm not gonna miss that. I don't want that person in my life anyways. True. So that's the point. Exactly. Yeah.
But you could miss out. That's right. You could miss out the other way if you're not being yourself.
If you're not putting yourself out there. Yeah.
And someone would like the real you, but you never show that side.
So I feel like often people decide like, hey, I got to put on an act when I'm in these spaces, but don't. Just like be yourself, enjoy, be natural, be true, and like, who knows what you'll build from that. Yeah. And like, I get it. Some people are like, oh, I'm too awkward for that. But if you just start being yourself, that awkwardness is going to go away. Yeah. It is internal at the end of the day. Yeah. This person, you go to this event, this person you're randomly talking to isn't going to care about like the way
they're worried about their own stuff.
Or their own thing. They're their own thing. So like, why worry yourself? Just like be open to whatever's going to happen. Be open to that connection, that communication, that conversation, and see what happens.
Yeah. 100%. And it's crazy what self-talk can do too.
Oh, like, yeah.
I think that's the fastest way to help you get there. And obviously there's a balance between like positive self-talk and just being arrogant and having a big ego. But negative self-talk is never a good thing. I saw a video recently It was this guy. He went around. He asked 100 people to rate themselves on a scale from 1 to 100, just like based on attractiveness.
Interesting.
And what he found, obviously, I think that this was studied before, but he found that the average person rated themselves like a 6.7 out of 10. And basically, what that rating shows is that everyone thinks they're above 5, above average, which is extremely helpful. I would be concerned if anyone rated themselves below average, because that's an effect. This we learn in psychology, the above average effect. They asked a bunch of people in a psychology class, where do you think you're going to rank amongst the students in this class by the end of the semester, like in terms of your grade and compared to the mean of the class. And the average of people said above average, which is impossible. You can't actually be above average.
Of course.
But I think that it's been evolved for us to at least have somewhat of a degree of feeling we're capable. Yeah. And not necessarily overinflating that to saying I'm perfect, I'm this, I'm whatever, but considering yourself incompetent, or it's kind of a reinforcement to you saying that you can't do it. And some things I'm comfortable with reinforcing. Like I'm comfortable saying I can't snowboard. I can't do it. I'm not planning on trying.
I learned how to snowboard recently. That was so much fun.
Okay, flex it
on. It took so much work though. I fell down so many times.
Yeah.
Because like the binding on my boot broke on the snowboard, and I fell down the mountain. Yeah. It was a very interesting time.
I've never snowboarded.
Cool experience.
I've skied once.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you got to come on an outdoors club trip. I'll teach you how to ski like more.
Hopefully this is a snowstorm.
Yeah, a good time. Just
fun.
you don't go. Oh, okay.
No, snowstorm, so I can go.
Okay.
Because you still went snowstorm, right?
Yeah, we did. It was a good time.
Exactly.
But like this year, I ran 2 downhill ski trips already myself. It was great. Yeah, so much fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I might embarrass myself out there.
It's okay. We had people that had never been before in their life, and they were just on the bunny hill the whole day. It was a great time, though.
Fair enough.
That could be you.
That could be me. You'll see me going up and down.
But anyways, yeah, you're saying.
But yeah. So, anyways, no, I was just talking about the negative self-talk. I think it's evolved at least for us to have a sense of competence. Obviously, not with everything, not reinforcing that I can snowboard because I don't plan on snowboarding. But anything you want to set your mind to.
You could learn.
You could learn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like that's one thing you feel like often like, oh, I can't do this. Like I say like myself, I can't dance.
Right.
But yet I did theater and I learned how to waltz, and like I know how to do certain things myself. I just don't know how to freestyle. Yeah. It's not self-talk. It's just saying I need to learn. Like I need to do this in the future. I feel like that's one thing people have to approach. Like how do you frame these things that maybe you think you're not good at yet into things that are like learning opportunities and experiences that you could have in the future. Yeah. You just don't have now.
Exactly. And especially with something as important as sociability, as being able to just kind of go sit with a group of people and be yourself.
And it all stems from being comfortable with yourself. Mm-hmm. So many people in society nowadays just don't feel comfortable being themselves or living in their own person. They want to like be something more. They want to be something better. And like that's okay to have those goals, but being comfortable in who you are is where that can all stem from. It's where that all like originates. You have to have that comfortability in like knowing this is me. I know what I am. I know who I am. And it's like I'm going to work from there. I'm going to go from there.
What do you think's driving that more now? Because you say like people are more like this now. I feel like there's definitely a somewhat of an aspect where if you looked in the past, some people would still try to be a certain way. Yeah. But maybe it's been driven harder today by certain aspects.
I mean, like society. You look at it's politics and social media. It's that idea that like all this media being shared about like what makes somebody great, what makes someone cool, what makes someone interesting. Is really what's like makes us like there's so many more stories out there, so much more information out there, but like like this is something this person's doing, this is something this person's doing. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you achieving these amazing achievements that person's achieving? Even like we see like all of our friends like post on social media, and you see their rose-colored glasses of a life. The idea like you only see the good parts of their life, the good achievements, and nothing else, which is nice. Of course, you want to see the things your friends achieve, but where's the rest of the life? Yeah. And like especially your closest friends, like you know the stories behind the scenes, you know everything else happening behind the scenes, and you see them post, and it's like living my best life, and it's like. You were crying the other day. Hold on a second. I feel like that's pause. Hold on. And so I feel like that's one thing that really has shifted society is that idea that we always see the best parts of people's lives unless someone is being truly themselves and open. Yeah. An
amazing quote about this from Dan Rodo, who's a YouTuber. Okay. My childhood inspiration. Dan Rodo. You want to call it that. Was stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, which is exactly what you're doing. Yeah, exactly. You're saying, why does my life not look like this? But if you put together your highlights or if you peeled back and saw what their behind the scenes looked like, it's really not that big.
Yeah, you
of a
take off
difference.
the wallpaper of the, like what is their Instagram page,
Exactly,
and you'll find so much more behind the scenes of like who like that photo they took. There was yelling happening 2 minutes before or something. I don't know, like some random experience that like you see these amazing photos of people, but there's way more to it. There's way more to that story, and there's way more to like the rest of their story than just them going to some big event or going on this vacation or something like that. Yeah.
And another thing that I heard of the other day recently was, because I know a lot about men's issues because I'm a man, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And naturally from this, I was like, maybe I should learn a bit about women's issues, because I don't know what women go through. I'm not a woman, right? I don't know what the problem in society is for women, because I'm sure there's a bunch of things. I think that's a huge problem now, is because like everyone talks about gender wars and how like there's a big divide between men and women, more than there has ever been. If you've seen the political split, women are way more liberal now than they ever used to be, and men are leaning more towards conservative. And there's this huge divide that's going on, and it's like, all right, well, this is going to cause some issues, right? Just in terms of relationships, because naturally, I think most couples are identical political affiliation.
Typically, because you don't want somebody who's going to be like
Cancel
opposite
your vote.
ideas of like what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just about government. It's more just like ideology. How do you see the world?
Like, how do you want to live your life?
Yeah, 100%. So that's concerning. But something that I was looking into is that, once again, Chris Williamson, he had this woman on who studies like women's issues and like modern day women's mental health and all these things, and why are so many women struggling, and girls mainly. I shouldn't say women, because it's like young girls with social media and TikTok and all these things.
Yeah.
And what they were saying is that, because you talked about like the rose colored glasses of Instagram, because a lot of these girls think that, or they want to break that image. They don't want to see, or they don't want to be as affected by this sort of perfect life they see on the internet. The response of what a lot of people are doing, maybe it's not just girls, but they're also now peeling the behind the scenes and posting about all the bad things, which is intended to make social media more real. But what she's saying is that maybe we should just stop posting altogether. Like, you don't need to advertise and put your life on the internet for it to last there forever. Like people are now putting, I haven't really seen this personally, this is what she says, putting their mental health disorders or conditions like in their Instagram bio.
Wait, actually?
As like kind of an identity, and like identifying with that.
I don't agree with that. No.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. I don't know if that's happening, because I don't really see that.
I haven't seen much of it. I also like kind of been off Instagram. I think you said the thing about stop posting. Like, I haven't posted since October, and I used to post like every month at least, if not more. And like I just like really, I was like, you know what? Like, my life can be my life. I don't have to share everything with everybody. And I might post sometime soon. But right now I'm chill. Like, I'm not worried about posting. I don't think, hey, I need to post this on my Instagram. I'm like, if something comes up that I want to post, I'll post it sometime. But
absolutely. And it's when like that, I just found that really interesting, of how like maybe we should just take a step back instead of trying to balance social media by showing you crying or advertising your medication pills. Let's just maybe promote a little bit more privacy. I think that'd be better for people, because in years down the line, you're probably not going to like posting the video of you crying.
Definitely. It's that thing, like, like I think you always need to think, like, when you're posting stuff on the internet especially, is like, like, do you think this will come back? Will you not enjoy this in the future? Like, because like anything you post will be there forever. That's like something we hear all the time. Like, everything online is there forever, because like someone might save your post, screenshot it, someone might save the words you said or something like that, and that's there forever. It's something that you have to wait and deal with. And so like when is that, where is that line of like, this is private, I shouldn't share this, versus like, hey, doesn't matter if it's online or not.
Absolutely. And obviously I'm talking as someone who posts for the podcast. I consider that a little different. I posted a video, it was like a vlog video with my brother, and we were like walking through Toronto. I thought it was gonna be a cool idea, because I was like, oh, we'll vlog, whatever. I felt so uncomfortable, just like,
because people are seeing your life and you. It's just weird.
That too, but also like in the moment, just filming myself in the streets.
Oh, that felt weird.
That felt a little weird to me.
I feel like people, like a lot of like vloggers go through that idea. It's like, I'm walking down the street with a camera. What does everyone else think about me? And
and it's more like, I'm not trying to disturb the peace of like the real world. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be a terrible place to live in if everywhere when you want to go outside, someone's out there with like,
or imagine if everybody was doing it. Like, everyone's walking around with cameras. It's like, that's like, that is no longer like the outdoors or nature or even like just like walking down the street anymore, because you're literally walking through someone's videos constantly or something like that. I don't know. I would hate that if like everybody around me was filming the whole time. Yeah.
100%. So that part aside, the stuff I like to post is like very clear cut production. We're sitting here, you can clearly see the camera. There's a fat ass light right in front of you.
Oh yeah.
Super bright. So this is like, we are making it official. We're in a room. Okay. We're doing this for the content. We have a layout of what the episode might look like, and it's more clean, it's more official. Yeah. But when people post just about their lives, it feels very raw, and it feels like we're getting too personal. Or
it's fake in that sense that it's like you're gonna act while on camera. Like I'm gonna film my life, but I'm gonna put on a persona, or I'm gonna be different than if I was just walking down the street myself. And that's the other part of it. I feel like is sometimes difficult. People don't see, like, if I'm gonna be on camera, I'm gonna like put on a bit more of a show. I'm gonna like be more out there. But is that who that person really is? Is that person's real life actually? Or are they just doing it for a camera?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It's been a good episode, Zach. Thank you for doing this.
No worries. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the people?
Not really. I feel like we covered a lot. That was a great chat. I don't know. I feel like just the biggest thing is like just get out there and live life. Like go explore, go live life. And if you want to come out, join the club, you talk. Have a great time. Have a very fun time.
Where can they find you?
Well, myself or like the club? What do you want?
Both. Both.
Okay. Well, myself, Instagram is @_Zach Groves. It's a great time. I don't post much anymore, but the club itself is UTOC_club. And we take people out, run like 6-7 events every single month. Have a great time. I'm literally going to play board games tonight with the Outdoors Club, just because, like, why not? Nice. It's also an outing club, so like just go and do outings. And so doing a little board game night tonight, just for fun. Why not?
What board game are you playing?
I don't know. We're going to Snakes and Lattes.
Okay.
And we'll just play some games. We'll see what happens. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
I've never heard of that. Snakes and Lattes.
It's like a board game cafe.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's like a few of them in Toronto. It's really fun because you just pay $10 and play as many board games as you want.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
It's fun.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, be a great time. And yeah, honestly, like this was really fun. Thanks for having me. Of course, man. Always good. And looking forward to hockey in the fall.
Exactly. We gotta win.
We gotta.
It's 4th year. I can't graduate.
We need that shirt.
I can't graduate without that shirt, man.
Oh yeah.
I need it. Anyways, thank you for watching. @Voices of Vic. Follow on Instagram. And we will see you next Sunday. Like the interview, like the episode. It's my man, Zach Groves. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much, Carter.
And we will see you later. Peace out.